Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
So tonight I'm sharing with you a message about, it's the second part of our Finding Our Purpose series and moving beyond our past. Beyond our past. I was off last week. If you didn't see me, that's why. I was on vacation. I got to go home to New York. I haven't been there since before my daughter was born. And so talking about beyond our past, I was deep dive into my past, going back home to my hometown in Long Island, Valley Stream, seeing my family there, the home I grew up in, seeing my 3-year-old daughter, climbing the stairs I learned to climb on, seeing my elementary school, and on Sunday I got to speak at my Unity Church in New York. And all during the week, I was staying with my sister during the week, and she kept asking me, what does it feel like to be in New York? What does it feel like to be here, to be back home? And it felt different. It felt different in a good way. In a good way. I was like, wow, it's been a few years, and I recognize, Ram Dass said that if you think you're enlightened, spend a week with your family. Right? I was like, a week with my family, but it was a great week. It was really wonderful. And what I recognize is that I changed. I changed quite a bit. I've done a lot of work on myself and practicing unity principles and just really being in this spiritual community and growing and just recognizing how present I really was to my family and getting to see my new life with my daughter and just it was so exciting. And I'll share with you one thing that I shared with at Unity of New York because I think it's fun. It was great to see Felicity see New York City for the first time and to just explore. It snowed a little bit on Friday, and she was so excited, and she kept trying to make a snowman out of like 1 inch of snow. I said, watch out for the yellow snow, Felicity. Don't touch that snow. But that was really fun. And she got on the subway, and she just loved the city. She's just taking it all in, and she's been thinking she's got this puppy thing going on, like she thinks she's a puppy, and she saw the pole, and my husband saw her see the pole and was like, no, and she went up to the pole that everybody holds on to, and she licked the pole, you guys. She went up to the pole, she licked it. She full out licked it, so I'm really grateful she has good immunity. All worked out okay. Somebody asked me if I had jet lag yesterday, and I'm like, it's only an hour difference, I know it's up north, it's not that far. Anyway, I'm grateful to be back home here in Houston. And so, just being knee-deep in the past, I kind of really have the energy of it and the coming full circle experience that I had with my family and with my church and speaking, and how I recognize how much I've grown as a speaker and how much more confident I felt, and I have you guys to thank for the opportunities that I've had here to get to work on my messages and to be here with you and how much you've taught me. So my question for you is, would you like to be free from your past? A few people, right? You want to be free from your past. What does it mean to be free from your past, right? So, perhaps you might look back on your life and you see all you've done, and you're like, all right, all that's led me to now, and okay, it's made me who I am, and it sounds like a lot to change, and maybe I wouldn't lose who I was. Maybe I might not like to change. It might be a lot of work. If you don't feel the need for transformation, that's fine. That's fine. Go live your life. Live your life, right? It's okay. But you came here tonight for a talk on getting beyond your past. So something drew you here to hear this message. Perhaps there's some energy here that you wanted to be a part of, something that you found interesting, or perhaps there's some sense of not being fulfilled, something within you that is calling you to a greater fulfillment. If you're feeling the need for more, to express more, to be more, to know more of who you are, you're in a process of shifting your identity, a spiritual process of shifting your identity. So what is our identity? What's our identity? Well, there's a problem with our identity, and the problem is that all of our experiences have kind of come together in order to create who we think we are, right? All the things that our family told us we are, or roles that we've played in our lives, the kind of family we're raised in, the town we're raised in, the socioeconomic status of our family, a type of home, our schools, our teachers, our friends, all have an impact and played a part into the information we received about ourselves and our lives and how we saw ourselves based on that, and then how we responded to that in order to get our needs met and to move forward in life. We created our identity in that process. And so we use that information from our environment to determine what is possible for our lives, right? So I think about my life and just different things. I would just kind of focus on that. When I was 2 or 3, my sister, my mom saw I liked to sing and dance, and so when I was 4, my mom put me in dance classes. And so that was fun for me. I really liked it. It was really entertaining and entertained my family, and so I was encouraged in that. So then I saw myself as being good at that, right? And I went forward and I looked for other ways to perform. So I joined the choir when I was in school, and that was great, and I got a lot out of it, and I got to express myself in that. And then there were other things that I got involved with. Gymnastics, I was okay at that. I was okay, tried it for a few years, and I really would have to work really hard at that, and it's painful. I think I'll blow my knees out. I quit. I just decided gymnastics wasn't for me. And life, continued on. In high school, I got cast as a lead in a few school plays. And so then I thought, wow, that's a possibility for my life. Maybe I'd be an actor, performer. And so I thought I'd try out for college, see what happens there, see what life brings me there. And I got into a college where I got a scholarship for performing and music and theater. I double majored in music and theater and minored in dance. And then I thought, well, I feel like I want to have some more training, and I got a full scholarship to grad school, and I studied acting. And so I was checking in with life. How was life responding to me? What are my opportunities based on what people were telling me about myself? And and I chose a career where there's a lot of rejection. Acting, theater, a lot of criticism. And I internalized a lot of that, and that became part of my identity too, and taking in things teachers told me as truth, because they're my teacher, right? Trying to help me. So, and that affected my self-esteem. So all these different things in my life that I took on as my identity, but life kept going on, and I met David, and I was doing regional theater after grad school and doing shows in New York, but then something happened, and my life shifted. Everything halted because I came to a time in my life where I started to have health problems. I was having problems breathing. I had to have a surgery, get a bone removed out of my nose. I was having stress-related health conditions. I physically could not do what I wanted to do with my life, so I had to make a change. I recognized I didn't want to keep going to specialists, being on prescription medication. My life was telling me there's something going on that you've got to change, or you can continue in this pattern of health problems. My parents were getting divorced at the same time as this was happening, so there was a lot of family turmoil too. Everything just all at once came together. I was no longer happy with the course of my life as it was going on and as I was being the personality, the identity that I thought I should be. My life wasn't working, and I recognized I wasn't living my potential. I was in pain. So I had to change. I had to do something different. And so when I took a break from that life, got to put performing kind of to the side, took a break from that life, and got to just be with myself, the self that wasn't a performer, the self that wasn't all the different roles and things that I had played in my life and the situations that I had internalized. When I got into my true self, I got into a realization of my potential, what I could be. I got beyond what I thought I was, the identity, to my true self. So who we think we are is a result of our past, right? That identity, who we think we are, but that's not who we really are. That who that we think we are is not the truth of who we are, which is the what that we are, which is our true nature. We also call our divine nature. You can also call it the Christ nature. It has many names. I am is really that true nature. So unity invited me into that greater possibility beyond my past, to live a life that was beyond the pain, the struggle, and open up to greater possibility. And so what I believe is that we all come here. Why we're here, we want to be free. We all have healing work to do, which we're drawn here to unity to do that healing work. We feel the positive energy. We feel the possibility within us. I've been thinking about this passage from Jesus and it's just one of those passages that I have to sit with and think about because it's challenging. And so this is what Jesus said. Do not think that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and one's foes will be members of one's own household. Like, whoa. Maybe you've had all of that at once. Like everybody's against each other. Yeah, just thinking about Jesus said that's what will happen. And I think about when he called the disciples, right? He was calling them away from their families, away from their jobs, to go and do this spiritual thing. You know, they were like, wait, we need those fish you were fishing for. We need you to be around to help raise these children, that kind of thing. Well, no, we have to follow this. And so we remember when we read Scripture that in unity we understand, we interpret it metaphysically, so what it means for us spiritually. And Jesus always represents our I am consciousness, our I am consciousness. So metaphysically, when we go on a spiritual path, we choose to see life differently, we choose to move out of the identity, and we have the courage to step in a different possibility for our lives. Maybe our families aren't going to be too happy about that. You know? What? You want to do what? You're going to that church, the one with the pyramid? You know? I don't see any crosses there. What's going on there? Why are you doing this? And why do you want to change? What's wrong with you? We like you for who you are. And then metaphysically, within ourselves, we recognize that how we have internalized those voices of our parents, of our family, of our teachers, of people in our lives who, when we do this spiritual work, we, like Jesus said, we come up against those voices who are trying to control us, to keep us small, to keep us in a certain identity, a certain way of doing things. So we're having an outer opposition and an inner opposition working with when we're on this spiritual path of growth and expansion, right? So we recognize that who we think we are is only really a skin or a shell around the truth of who we really are. So we're talking about identification, who we think we are, and our sense of self, which is our sense of our true nature. So I was hungry. I was hungry for transformation. I needed it. I wanted it more than anything else. I was willing to do whatever it took because my life wasn't working anymore. So what I want to know tonight is, are you hungry? Are you hungry for that change? Do you want it more than anything else to know God, to be your true self, to shine your light in the world? Because I believe that's what it takes. It takes that deep gut desire to want to do this work, to really see the transformation through, because while we have all the support around us, it's not the easiest choice to make. We can go on and continue to live our lives the way that they've always been, but I believe we have that hunger. So we move from problem into possibility. And the possibility tells us you're so much more than you were ever told that you are. That you're the divine, you are the light of God, you're more than even a human being. You're more than you believe that you are. You're not limited by your past. And there's a pathway to take. As we move from problem to possibility, we move on to a spiritual path. So what does that spiritual path look like? First, it's that awareness that I know I have the power to change my life, because I recognize I'm creating my life from my own consciousness, right? From my own thinking. As I've internalized situations and things in my life that people have said, and I've taken that in, that I have the power at the point of my consciousness to shift that and change that. These are the unity teachings and principles that we have. So what does it look like to change that? Well, it's not a magic technique that can happen all in one day. I wish it was. I wish I could just meditate with you once and I'm awake and it's done. You're awake now, right? You know that there's a greater possibility. But it doesn't happen in one day. It doesn't happen in one workshop or one weekend or even in 1 year. Getting beyond our past is about how we're living our lives day to day. So day to day, in order to get beyond our past, we've got to connect with that true self, that of us which is beyond the identity, personality, ego structure that we've created. And so how do we do that? Well, the practice in unity that we teach is meditation. You can start 5 minutes a day. You don't have to take a big hunk. You want to get it into your life every day and add more and more to it. And the reason why we meditate is because, in my experience, the mind cycles through all these thought patterns, right, that create who we are. It's just going through. And so meditation creates a space so you can be open to a different reality, right? So you've got to create a space to hear the still small voice, because the voice of spirit isn't going to be like, hey, you're the light of the world, over all the crazy stuff, right? The monkey mind stuff. It's not going to fight for it. It's peace. It's peaceful. It's peaceful. So we've got to create a space, and that comes through meditation and quieting the mind. And then when you listen to the mind, you go, that's what I'm thinking? And you notice the patterns. So when you notice the patterns, and you can do something about it. When you notice that, as an example, my acting teacher telling me something that made me think I wasn't talented enough. So then I internalize it and I take on this thought, I'm not talented enough. And so I'm walking around like, oh, is that really? How do I feel when I hear that thought? When I think that thought, I write it out and I recognize I've been thinking that. Well, I feel sad, I feel less than, it doesn't feel good, right? So I can do something about it, and that's where our affirmative prayer practice comes in. Now I could put on an affirmation and say, I'm talented, I'm enough, and it would only be half of the practice, because I've got to deal with that less than limited thinking, and the way that I deal with it is through a denial. And denials are easy. It's just saying that whatever it is that I've been thinking doesn't have any power over me anymore. So say, I give no power to, or you give no power to it, really. I give no power to thoughts of being untalented or not enough. And then you've got the affirmation, and affirmations are easy to construct as well when you keep it simple. I am. Use your I am. I am talented. I am enough. And it sounds simple, and do we do it? How often do we do it, right? When we just see what we're thinking and shift that and keep working with it until it loses its energy. And they recognize, I've accepted that new reality, the truth, really, the truth. I am talented, I am enough. So that's the pathway that we begin with. Meditation, working with our thoughts, affirmative prayer, denials, and affirmations. One of my favorite spiritual teachers, Dr. David Hawkins, said the ego is not an enemy to be subdued, but merely a compilation of unexamined habits of perception. Just unexamined thoughts we've let float through, cycle through patterns, and so we could say, that's what I'm thinking. Let me examine that. Is it really true? Do I really want to continue to hold that thought? How do I feel when I hold that thought? If I'm not feeling good, it's not a healing thought, it's not a healthy thought, it's not a positive thought, so shifting that thought. And if you've been working on it, and you're like, I've tried denials and affirmations, I'm not really feeling like I'm getting enough out of that. What I would tell myself about that is to be patient with the process, because it is one thought, one emotion, one situation at a time that we heal. We can't push the river. We have to allow the healing process to take place in its own time, in its own way. So we just keep doing that, and we want to have the support of a spiritual community around us. When we get into class, when we have Metaphysics 1, we're doing all that, affirmations, denials, meditation, using our spiritual practices in our life day to day and making it really a part of who we are. There's 12-step recovery groups are wonderful in our healing, therapy. All of these help us to stay accountable. It's like, I think about doing cardio, and it's like, yeah, I might walk around the block and get a mile in type of thing, but if I'm in a class where it's a cardio class, an hour and a half cardio, I'm going to work harder and do more because I paid for it, I paid for it, so, we want to finish it, and there are other people around, and I want to, I don't want to, I can't do it. Of course I can do it, you keep up with it. So when you're in spiritual community, you have that support around you, you move further, faster, because there's that accountability and that love and support, and it helps us to get beyond our past by learning spiritual truth and applying it in our lives with each other. So know that you will heal when you're ready to heal. It requires a readiness from within you. More comes forward as you progress. So you may heal something, and then something else comes up, and you go, oh, I didn't heal that. There comes a time in your life, a certain age or situation where it feels more safe to look at that. You've had a distance from it, and then you can really see it and heal. So how do you know when you've gone beyond your past? Well, I don't think you forget it. I don't think you're meant to forget it. My mom, I love my mom, she says, I'll forgive, but do I have to forget? So I don't think you're meant to forget that, that you're meant to come back around to it and notice when you've come full circle and when you've changed. So I want to share with you this quote from our Unity co-founder, Myrtle Fillmore. She said, the real purpose of your life is to express the creation of God, to unfold the many departments of your mind which God has planned for you and which will enable you to know and do his will. When you know that there is nothing for you to worry about or to fear, you may then relax and feel happy. When you know that living as God has planned it here and now is beautiful, and that you can know just what God's plans are for you, you will be really interested in living, won't you? And so that's the gift of doing this spiritual practice, is you really get to discover what your true purpose is in life, what your greater purpose beyond the past, beyond the pain, beyond the family systems, that there's something even broader and greater and more wonderful and fulfilling for each of us, and that's the promise that we have in spiritual teachings, that you can move beyond your past into your purpose of expressing the divine that you are, and Unity is here to support you. So I just want to close with a poem that expresses my healing process and coming to Unity. I shared it, well, it has been a long time since I shared it here. I haven't shared it on a Wednesday night. So I wanted to share it with you all tonight. It's called I Am More Than. I once saw God as a man, and I felt less than. I learned of Jesus the man, and I felt less than. I looked in the great book written by men, edited by men, translated by men, controlled by men, and I felt less than. In the scheme of things, as a petite young woman, I felt small. I felt I was the smallest of all. I couldn't grow in the church of glittery things. I couldn't grow in the church of punishing things. I couldn't grow in the church of separating things. Then I found a place where people sat in the dark and a bright light shone on me. I found my joy as I danced and my light grew. I found my joy as I sang and my light grew. I found my joy as I spoke and my light grew. And people could see this light and called it good. And I took the light home with me, but I didn't know what it was, so I had to protect it. And I protected it and protected it and protected it until it didn't come out much anymore, and I felt small. And I got sick. Oh, I was sick. The sickness stopped me from singing. The sickness stopped me from dancing, and the sickness stopped me from acting. And I went from teacher to teacher to see if they could see the light. And I was told that I had to try harder, and all I tried wasn't enough. But the light inside danced, and inside it sang, and inside it shone like a star. Then, when I was as small as I could be, I found unity. And little by little, the principles soaked in, and there was a spark. And I knew that I didn't have to protect that light anymore because it couldn't be put out. And I learned that God is not a man, and I felt more than. And I learned that the Christ is not a man, and I felt more than. And I learned that that great book was there to tell me that I am more than. And the healing began, and the light grew, but this time people didn't have to sit in the dark to see it. And I learned to be the real me, which is more than man or woman. It is I am. So I'm grateful for this spiritual path, to be here at Unity, and the amazing healing that I've experienced. And I know that it is available for all of you always, and I know you know that too. And so I encourage you to have the courage to move beyond your past, to do your healing work, and to shine your light fully in this world. God bless you.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.